Here's your news for July 27th, 2020. And your headlines for today include Dominik Mysterio to confront Seth Rollins on WWE Raw. WWE Raw wrestler is written out of storylines, no longer being pushed as a top star. Real reason why Luke Gallows and Karl Anderson signed with Impact Wrestling revealed. What Impact offered that WWE didn't. WWE changes match on Raw to non-title contest. Drew McIntyre teases hair versus hair match against Dolph Ziggler on WWE Raw. Two former WWE champions confirmed that Adam Cole and Pat McAfee confrontation is not a work. Current WWE wrestler calls out Hulk Hogan for being racist. Reason why so many WWE superstars lost their last names. AJ Styles goes off on another wrestling personality, and more. We are kicking off today with news from Raw, as tonight's episode will see an appearance by Dominik Mysterio. Following his father's loss in the eye for an eye match at Extreme Rules, Dominik is set to confront Seth Rollins, who won the match after jamming Ray's eye into the steel steps, causing it to dislodge from its socket. WWE have said that it's possible that Ray will be able to make a full recovery, but fans shouldn't expect to see the former world champion anytime soon. Tonight's show will also see a Raw Women's title match between Asuka and Sasha Banks, as well as a triple threat tag match where the winner will challenge for the Raw Tag Team titles at SummerSlam, as tonight's Raw will be a packed show. One person fans probably won't see tonight is Aleister Black, as following last week's curb stomp and post-match beatdown from Seth Rollins, it seems the NXT champion isn't the star he once was. In the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer said that the Architect's actions were written as an injury angle, but that it isn't covering a real-life injury. In other words, Black is being written off of TV, and this may be down to Paul Heyman's departure from the Red brand, as last year, it was reported that Vince McMahon wasn't a huge fan of the Dutchman, but was willing to let Heyman try and make him a star. With Heyman no longer Raw's executive director, it seems the WWE has no plans to push the former NXT champion, and it may be quite some time before we see the formerly Heyman-backed superstar on TV again. Two people who certainly aren't fans of Paul Heyman are Luke Gallows and Karl Anderson, who recently signed with Impact Wrestling after their WWE releases last April. Speaking in an interview, Luke Gallows explained what tipped the former Raw Tag Team champions into signing with Impact, as opposed to other companies like AEW, saying, "They put together a very nice offer that had an unlimited schedule, but the most attractive thing about it was that the people at Impact were fully on board with co-promoting our brand. We want to promote their brand, and they wanted to promote ours, so they promoted the Talkin' Shop podcast." Gallows went on to explain how this sort of cross-promotion would never happen in WWE, and at the end of the day, Impact felt like the right place for the duo to be. Hopefully this will be the right call for Gallows and Anderson, who made their Impact in-ring debut at Slammiversary, and perhaps the WWE will one day regret releasing their best tag team in the world. Back to Raw, as there's been a major change to tonight's show. The WWE had previously announced that Drew McIntyre will defend his title against Dolph Ziggler in a stipulation of the champion's choosing, but now the company has announced that this will be a non-title match. It's very interesting that this match has been changed, given that most fans already expected Drew to retain his title, before moving on to Randy Orton, who is rumored to face the Scotsman at SummerSlam with the title on the line. Instead, tonight's show will see just one title match, as Raw Women's Champion Asuka will hope to regain her title belt when she faces Sasha Banks, and whilst Ziggler may get another title shot down the line, that opportunity won't be tonight. Whilst we don't know what exact stipulation Drew will pick for tonight's show, both the Scotsman and the Show-Off have weighed in on what matches they want online. When Ziggler said that their match should be career versus career, the WWE champion hit back with a photoshopped image of a bald Dolph, implying that tonight's match could be hair versus hair. We'll have to see what stipulation our WWE champion brings to tonight's show, but if the Show-Off was to lose his golden locks, he could always fall back on a career as a Steve Austin impersonator. Now, we've previously reported on a confrontation between Pat McAfee and Adam Cole, which culminated in an expletive-loaded rant by the former NXT champion, who stormed off McAfee's show. Since then, there's been plenty of speculation on whether this was a shoot or a work, And one person who thinks that this is as real as it gets is Mark Henry. Speaking on Busted Open Radio, Henry said, "This is not a work. This is real shit that's going to have to be turned into business because it's too good not to. Here we are with all the stuff that happened for a week in pro wrestling, and we're talking about a verbal disagreement on a show. It was real, and that's why we're talking about it." Bully Ray also said that he thinks this blow-up from Cole is the real deal, and spoke about how McAfee, an outsider in the world of professional wrestling, caught Cole on the right day. He said, "WWE can turn around and go, 'You know something, Pat? We've been really good to you. We've allowed you to announce on our shows. We have a great relationship with you. Things have always been wonderful. You're not a part of our world, but we have welcomed you into our world. Why did you even feel the need to throw any digs at Adam Cole?" Ultimately, it seems like the only people who know if this was a work or a shoot for sure is McAfee and Cole, and until one of them does an interview on the matter, fans will just have to make do with speculation. We've got EC3 news next, as whilst the former Impact World Champion recently made big waves by returning to the company, he's apparently not the most memorable of wrestlers. Older fans may remember EC3's first run in WWE as Derek Bateman, where he competed on the original reality show version of NXT, but according to the one percenter himself, one man who didn't remember this is Vince McMahon. EC3 said, "I actually heard one time there was a meeting, and they were watching Impact, and I came out, and I don't even remember who told me, but somebody in creative, and Vince was like, 'Who's this guy? We should get him.' They're like, 'Derek Bateman.' He's like, 'Who?' Whilst EC3 returned to WWE years later as a much more developed name, that didn't cause him to get any better treatment on WWE's main roster the second time around, and he now seems to be much better controlling his own narrative with Impact Wrestling. One person who nobody has any issue remembering is Hulk Hogan, though MVP clearly doesn't remember the Hulkster how WWE wants him to. When Eric of the Viking Raiders posted an Instagram photo with Hogan, the former Raw Tag Team Champion spoke about getting to meet his childhood hero, followed by a comment from MVP, who said that he's found out Hogan hates him and people that look like him. This is, of course, in response to video footage of Hogan using racist comments being leaked in 2015, though MVP was quick to delete his comment, but not before some fans noticed it and asked where it had gone. Though Hogan has made several public apologies as well as spoken with kids about the problems of racism, it's clear that many people haven't forgiven the former world champion. And with the Hulkster recently tweeting a picture of him in an MRI machine undergoing more medical tests, don't expect Hogan and MVP to be sharing the ring anytime in the near future. Over to SmackDown now, and with Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods on the shelf, there's been a lot of talk lately about a big push for Big E. Big E himself has spoken about having a singles run, which wouldn't mean he'd need to leave the New Day, but according to Ringside News, a huge singles push had previously been in the works. A source from WWE told them that Vince McMahon has always toyed with the idea of pushing the powerhouse as a singles star, and that there were even plans to turn Big E heel last year, though McMahon obviously never went through with it. In the past, all three members of the New Day have said that they plan on staying together for good, though that doesn't mean Big E can't receive a lengthy singles push, and the next 6 weeks could certainly be a career-defining time for the former NXT champion. Some fans will remember that Big E was once Big E Langston, and just like Elias Sampson, Antonio Cesaro, Buddy Murphy, and Alexander Rusev, the New Day member is one of many WWE superstars to have had their names shortened. During an episode of Grillin' JR, the WWE Hall of Famer turned AEW commentator explained why so many superstars have their names shortened. He said, "It's a showbiz thing, simple as that. Vince wants to be Walt Disney. He wants to be an entertainment mogul, making movies, making TV shows, producing pay-per-views. The theory is that it's a lot easier to remember one name for a person than two names for a person. I don't agree with it." JR gave examples of one-named stars like Cher and Bono as an explanation for why WWE likes shortening names, and whether it's debatable that one-word names are easier to remember than two-word names, it's likely that Vince McMahon won't be breaking this habit of his. We've got news from another former WWE turned AEW star next, as Chris Jericho has weighed in on a possible return to McMahon's company. Speaking on his Saturday Night Special, Jericho was asked about a possible return to Vince McMahon's company and said, "It's not gonna happen. I really enjoy being in AEW. I loved my time in WWE, I love Vince McMahon, I learned a lot. I had a lot of fun, but listen, you can't stay in the same place forever. Jericho added that staying in one place is how a wrestler becomes stagnant, and said he enjoyed that AEW began without a safety net back in 2019. Of course, there's always the chance that Jericho could return to WWE, even for his much-deserved Hall of Fame induction, but with the entire Inner Circle set to face Best Friends, Orange Cassidy, Luchasaurus, and Jungle Boy this Wednesday, it's clear that Jericho isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Speaking of AEW, this week's episode of Dynamite will also see Cody Rhodes defend his TNT Championship against Warhorse, and there could already be a challenger for Cody if he retains the gold. On Twitter, former WWE superstar JTG posted some fan art of a match card pitting himself against Rhodes on Dynamite, and tagged the TNT champion to ask if he liked what he saw. 2020 has been an especially rough year for JTG, as his Crime Time partner Shad Gaspard tragically died while saving his son earlier this year. So a high-profile match for JTG, dedicated to Shad, would be a big deal for the former superstar. So far, Rhodes has retained his title against stars including Jungle Boy, Jake Hager, Sonny Kiss, and most recently Eddie Kingston. And time will tell whether JTG, who judging by other tweets is in phenomenal shape, gets a match against the TNT champion. Speaking of Rhodes, the reigning TNT champion has done plenty with AEW since founding it, but one thing he doesn't want to see is the show compared to WWE. Taking part in a Twitter Q&A, Rhodes addressed one fan's concern that some people can't watch AEW without comparing it to other shows, similar to how WCW was once compared to WWE, and said, "It's new, it's unknown, it's also very aggressive in delivery and its marketing. I think the late 90s template for the current situation is the only reference people have sometimes, but respectfully, that ecosystem doesn't fit ours. This is very new territory and it's fan-made." The wrestling world is a much different place than it was when WWF Raw and WCW Nitro were battling for ratings, and whilst Rhodes doesn't want to see his show compared to anything else, that's something that's easier said than done. One person who was there for the original war was Jim Ross, who has spoken about an issue in AEW with the referees. In the past, AEW officials have been criticized by fans and other refs alike for not enforcing the rules, with the idea of a DQ finish seemingly totally foreign in AEW. Addressing this on Grillin' JR, Ross said this was an issue with the wrestlers, saying, "The issue is, not everybody listens. They think that some things suck. We don't have tag ropes anymore because some of our crew think it's lame. I think it's bullshit. Heels need rules to break. You need shortcuts to gain an unfair advantage. It's just common sense. It's basic human instincts. The heels, when they get out and wrestle, they cheat. It's never changed, it's never going to change." Cody Rhodes has recently said that the idea of faces and heels is an outdated concept in AEW, but perhaps there will be a time when the refs in AEW are more ready to lay down the law. And we're ending with news from AJ Styles, who has had some harsh words for former Impact Wrestling owner Dixie Carter. On Twitch, the Intercontinental Champion defended former TNA writer Vince Russo, who gets a lot of criticism by fans, and added, "Do I believe Dixie ruined Impact? Well, it was TNA back then, and 100%. Impact, there was a time when it was really gaining ground. The problem was, Dixie wanted to be WWE light, and that's not what people wanted. They wanted to see something else." Styles added that had Dixie let the writers do their own thing, TNA would still be around and bigger than it is right now. And whether you agree with Styles' comments or not, it's clear that the former TNA World Champion isn't a fan of his former boss.